Welcome back to the 4 a.m. Gaming Historian. 45 years of gaming, zero sponsorships. All opinions are my own. This week's list has some of the most celebrated games in history sitting at prices that honestly don't make any sense. 30 games, let's tear through them. Persona 5 Royal is one of the greatest JRPGs ever made, and I will not be accepting any arguments on that point. The style is unmatched, the UI, the music, the characters, the story, over 100 hours of content that never overstays its welcome. The Royal Edition adds a completely new semester, new characters, and a refined ending that makes an already perfect game even better. 80% off for something this extraordinary, non-negotiable purchase. It Takes Two won Game of the Year and absolutely deserved it. A co-op only adventure about a couple going through a divorce played with another person that uses its two-player requirement as the actual narrative theme. Every chapter introduces completely new gameplay mechanics, and none of them outstay their welcome. The most creative co-op game ever made, and my family and I absolutely enjoyed it. Grab somebody, play this immediately, and pick it up. Vanquish is Platinum Games doing third-person shooter, and it is one of the most kinetic and mechanically satisfying action games that I have played in a long time. Sliding across the battlefield at high speed, slowing time, chaining combos, everything about the movement system feels incredible. It is short, it is intense, it respects your time completely. $6 for one of the most underrated games in Platinum's legendary catalog. Pick it up. We do have HellClock. It is the lightest discount on today's list at 30% off, but I'm including it because it is an interesting action RPG with a time manipulation mechanic built around a literal hell clock that changes how combat flows. The concept is creative, the execution is solid, and for fans of action RPGs looking for something fresh and different, HellClock at $14 is still a reasonable entry point for something this original. Sonic Origins will collect Sonic 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, and Sonic CD in one beautifully presented package, and boy, does this bring me back to my heyday, the definitive way to play the classic Mega Drive era Sonic games. As someone who played these in their original forms in the early 90s, the nostalgia was so real, but the games still actually hold up pretty well on their own merits. Under $9 for 4 complete classic Sonic games is excellent value for any platformer fan. Warriors Abyss will take the 1 vs. thousands over-the-top combat and adds roguelite structure between battles. You're fighting through the underworld with a constantly evolving roster, and the combination of chaos and roguelite progression creates a pretty addictive loop. If you love the Dynasty Warrior style but want something with more strategic depth between the carnage, Warriors Abyss is going to deliver exactly that. Little Nightmares is a masterpiece of atmosphere and dread at under $3. You're a tiny child navigating a massive, grotesque world where everything wants to eat you, and the art direction is pretty stunning. Every room tells a story without a single word of dialogue. Sense of scale, being this small in a world this large and this hostile, is unlike anything else in horror gaming. $3, play it with the lights on, because if not, remember, I just warned you. And right behind that, we do have Little Nightmares 2. It is here at $4.49, a bigger, bolder, and in many ways scarier sequel that expands everything the original did brilliantly. New environments, new enemy types, pretty terrifying moments I was completely unprepared for. Grab both this week and play them back-to-back. Under $8 total for 2 of the finest horror experiences in gaming. This is a fantastic deal, and pick it up. A Way Out is another co-op only game, prison break adventure from the creator of It Takes Two, and it was an amazing experience from start to finish. 2 prisoners breaking out and staying on the run. The co-op is going to be mandatory, and the game uses that requirement creatively all throughout the game. Split screen the entire time, constantly switching perspectives, constantly surprising you. Under $9 for one of the most inventive co-op experiences available. Pick it up. We do have Dredge. It is a fishing game wrapped around a Lovecraftian horror mystery, and it is pretty atmospheric and unsettling experience I've had in years. You're going to be a fisherman in a remote area, and something is very wrong with the waters after dark. The dread builds slowly and deliberately, and the narrative reveals itself through the fish you catch and the people you meet. Under $10 for something this terrifying and beautifully crafted. Pick it up. Bayonetta is Platinum Games at the most stylish and most outrageous. A character action game with combat so deep and satisfying that I still consider it the gold standard of the genre. The character is iconic, the combat mastery ceiling is enormous, and the spectacle never lets up for a single second. $6 for one of the finest action games ever made. If you've never played Bayonetta, take out your wallet and pick it up. The Dead Space remake is the gold standard for how to modernize a classic horror game. Ishimura is more terrifying than ever. Isaiah Clarke now speaks. The zero-gravity sections are rebuilt from scratch, and every scare lands harder than the original. $15 for a survival horror experience this polished and this respectful of what made the original a classic. This is how remakes should be done. Trials of Mana is the full 3D remake of the beloved 1995 Super Nintendo JRPG, and it captures the warmth and charm of the original beautifully. 3 protagonists with their own story paths, real-time action combat, gorgeous art direction that brings the Mana world to life in a way the original never could. $15 for a JRPG remake done with love and craftsmanship. Mana series fans and JRPG fans, definitely pick this one up. Man, I got a hidden love for my next game, Powerwash Simulator. You clean things with a pressure washer. That is the entire game. I cannot explain why it is so deeply, profoundly satisfying, but it absolutely is. Watching dirt blast off surfaces, the methodical approach to each level, the pure zen of making something spotless. There's nothing stressful about this game, and sometimes that is exactly what you need at 4 o'clock in the morning. $12.50 for therapy and game form. Don't pass on this. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is Borderlands in a fantasy tabletop RPG setting, and the comedy writing throughout was pretty good. Tina, as a dungeon master narrating an adventure that keeps breaking its own rules, was a pretty inspired concept, and the looter-shooter gameplay underneath was pretty satisfying as ever. 80% off for a game this funny, this content-rich. Borderland fans, this should be an easy yes. Another game that surprised me, Dave the Diver. It looks like a simple indie game. You dive for fish during the day and run a sushi restaurant at night, and it is secretly one of the deepest and most charming games released in recent years. The variety of gameplay systems, the bizarre story that keeps escalating, the sheer amount of content. Dave the Diver has no right being this good. Under $11 for a great indie game of the last few years. I had to put this game on my list, and if you haven't played it, my God, you are in for a surprise. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, $8. One of the greatest open world games ever made, possibly the greatest. Geralt of Rivia, the continent, the Blood and Wine expansion alone is longer than most full games. The writing is exceptional. The side quests are better than most games' main stories, and the world rewards exploration in ways no other open world has matched. 80% off for an all-time classic. There are no excuses, and pick it up. I had a blast with the second game, but let's talk about the original. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is one of the most underrated action RPGs ever made. And at under $5, it is an absolute steal. The pawn system where you create a companion that other players can borrow in their own game was pretty genius. Climbing giant monsters to attack their weak points feels incredible. The Dark Arisen expansion adds an entire underground dungeon that was pretty terrifying. 84% off for something this unique and this replayable. Pick it up. From Yakuza to a spinoff. That's right. I'm talking about Judgment. It is a detective thriller and was pretty good. You're a private investigator uncovering a serial murder conspiracy, and the combination of Yakuza's incredible world building with a detective gameplay layer created something pretty special. If you love the Yakuza games, this is essential. And if you've never tried the series, Judgment is actually a pretty good entry point in this series. Final Fantasy X is the game that made me fall completely in love with the Final Fantasy series, and it still holds up pretty good. The stories across this game is going to be emotionally impacting. The turn-based combat is satisfying. The world building was pretty good. The HD remaster looks great and includes X-2, which is completely different but equally enjoyable experience. Under $12 for 2 complete Final Fantasy games, hundreds of hours, and pick it up. Celeste is a perfect game. I don't use that word lightly after 45 years of gaming. A precision platformer about climbing a mountain that is secretly about mental health and self-acceptance, with level design so brilliant it teaches you every mechanic through play rather than tutorials. It is challenging without ever feeling unfair. The soundtrack was pretty good. $5 for something this well crafted and pretty moving. Pick it up. You either have a love or hate relationship with my next game. Crusaders 3 is the most compelling medieval dynasty simulator ever built, and the stories it generates are unlike anything scripted entertainment can produce. Your ruler dies, your incompetent heir loses half the kingdom, your daughter marries into a rival dynasty, and it starts a war. All emergent, all unscripted, all pretty gripping. $15 for a game that creates infinite unique stories through every single playthrough. Pick it up. The Riftbreaker is a base-building survival game with twin-stick shooter combat and executes both halves brilliantly, and honestly caught me off guard when it came out. You're a scientist in a mech suit on an alien planet, building a base while fending off increasingly enormous waves of creatures. The progression system is deep, the combat satisfying, and the sheer scale of the late-game base defenses was pretty spectacular. Under $12 for a game this content-rich and this replayable. Pick it up. From Riftbreaker to X-Morph Defense, it is a tower defense game where you play as an alien invader. You're building the maze, placing the towers, and flying a spaceship to personally destroy whatever it gets through. The dual gameplay layer of strategy and action simultaneously was pretty brilliant, and the destructible environments that your enemies bulldoze through if your defenses fail is going to create real tension. $4 for something this creative and this fun. Don't pass on it. I had a lot of fun for this game that's only $1.99, and it was Zombie Driver HD. You drive vehicles through zombie hordes, and everything about that premise is delivered with complete commitment. Upgrade your cars, unlock new vehicles, obliterate everything in your path. It is simple, it is ridiculous, and at $2 it asks absolutely nothing of you except to enjoy mowing down the undead from behind a steering wheel. Sometimes that's all you need in gaming. I do have Blasphemous. It is a dark Souls-like Metroidvania dripping in a Spanish religious story, and it is one of the most visually distinctive games that I own on my list. The pixel art is stunning, the lore is pretty dark, and the combat rewards patience and precision in a way that fans of the genre will immediately recognize and appreciate. $6.24 for something this atmospheric and this beautifully realized. And if you love it, Blasphemous 2 is also going to be on sale this week. Dead Cells is the gold standard of action roguelites, tight combat, incredible build variety, a world that reveals itself gradually across dozens of runs. Every weapon combination feels distinct, every run teaches you something new, and the progression system gives you a pretty forward momentum even when a run ends badly. I did review this game on my channel, and yes, Dead Cells in 2026 is still absolutely worth playing. $12.50 for a genre masterpiece. Pick it up. I had to put my next two games on my list because I've had people in my comments state, why don't you ever feature these games? So here we go. Tales of Symphonia is one of the greatest JRPGs ever made, and it came out in 2003 on the GameCube. Real-time combat system, the world built on surprising central mystery, the characters that you're going to care about by the end. This game defined an entire era of JRPG storytelling. $5 for a landmark title. It holds up better than games released 10 years after it. Essential for any JRPG fan. Let's move straight into Tales of Vesperia. It is widely considered the peak of the entire Tales series, and the definitive edition gives you the complete version that was previously only available in Japan. Yuri Lau is one of the most interesting protagonists in JRPG history, a former knight who operates in the moral gray areas most JRPG heroes never touch. Under $10 for the definitive version of a beloved classic. Tales fans, this one is mandatory. I remember watching this movie at least 100 times growing up as a child, but that's right. Let's go ahead and close out with RoboCop Rogue City, a game that had absolutely no right being as good as it is. You are RoboCop. The weight, the movement, the Auto 9, the voice, everything is authentically true to the character and the films. The story respects the source material completely, and the fan service is exceptional. 80% off one of the best licensed games ever made. If you grew up with the films, buy this today and thank me later. That is 30 games, including Persona 5, Witcher 3, and Celeste alone makes this one of the most important Tuesday lists that I put together this year. Get in there before the deals disappear. And if this list did help you, hit that subscribe button every Tuesday. I'm back with 30 more. Remember, hit F5, reset, reload. I am F5 Dad, and I'll see you on the next video.